Good morning, Algebra 2 students. For Miss Bell, I'm looking at the 2B test, and let's get going on it. These numbers, every time you link in on this, it's going to be different numbers. So if you go to number 6, these are going to be out of order. They're always, kind of all over the place. So for your number 6, it says to graph the equation. And so you're going to be looking for the graph of this equation. Remember that while you're looking at it, this on the inside of the bars is going to be a horizontal. It's going to be left or right. And remember that this on the outside of the absolute value bars is going to be the vertical, up or down. Okay? So that should help you decide whether it's A, B, C, or D. For number 4, when you get to number 4, the cost of a flight is related to the length of the flight by this equation, where x is the distance in miles and y is the cost in dollars. So my y, my x, okay. So according to the model, how much would a 3,025 mile flight cost? So distance, we're going to substitute it in for x. You can see I did it wrong at the beginning. I don't know, I read it backwards and I was like, whoa, that's not right. So plug that number in for your x value. Work this problem out because they want to know, the cost. What would the cost be? And it will be similar to A, B, C, or D, right around there. This is, I don't know what number it is. You can't really read it. But when you come across this one, match the correct graph for the given inequality. So we have an inequality here. So let's just look at if it were to say equals. So we could just find the line. So pretend that this is just equals right now. This is our y-intercept. So you got to find one that crosses the y-axis at positive 2. There are 3 that do that. Then look for the one with the line that goes up 1 over 3. So it's crossing at 2, and then it's going up 1 over 3. Okay. And then obviously it's a dotted line. And then y, everything is shaded above the line because it's going to be, for instance, if you look at this one, it's got to be above the y because y is greater than. So all of these values are greater than in the y-axis. Okay? So that's just, an example there. So either option 1, 2, 3, or 4. For number 2, the hurricane hunters took the following measurements from a hurricane over several days as it developed. And we have the air pressure and we have the wind speed. And they found that the air pressure and the wind speed are related in the following way. In this way. So they're looking at this equation where x is the air pressure in millibars and y is the maximum sustained wind speed in knots. So what does the y-intercept? And I circled the y-intercept of this function represent, this y-intercept. So remember the y-intercept, when we have y equals mx plus b, the b is the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is going to be where it crosses the y-axis if we were to graph this. So it's when x is 0. So when x is 0, when the air pressure is 0, this is my x, and this is my y. This is my y. It says x is the air pressure. So when x is 0, so if there was a 0 here, if there was a 0, y equals any m plus b, and this is multiplied, your y is going to equal to b. So your y is going to equal that. Your wind speed would equal when x is 0. So any answer that reflects what I was just talking about, A, B, or C, or D. In number 8, we have to graph the equation. Hopefully you're pausing this because I'm kind of ripping right through it. And I have some clues here for you because this is a big one. We have a reflection here. Remember, when you have a negative in front of the absolute value bars or parentheses, it's going to be a reflection. Horizontal, and I kind of gave you a little bit too much information, said it was right. Yeah, it is right. And then vertical, when it's outside. So when it's inside, it's horizontal. When it's outside, when you have any information outside of the bars or parentheses, it's going to be vertical. And this one happens to be vertical up. Okay. So you're looking for those characteristics in your A, B, C, or D. For number 15, translate left 3 units. So we want to take this, we want to translate it left 3 units. So it's going to be inside some parentheses, and it's either going to be, a plus or a minus if you tell me which when it's left. Okay. And the last one, I gave you some information on that. And then translate down 1 unit. So remember, this down, translating down, this is going to be horizontal. That's going to be outside of the parentheses. So you may want to play that back, and because that's going to give you big clues as to whether it's A, B, C, or D. For number 5, we have just this being a vertical change. So remember, the parent function looks like this, just coming right from the origin. Here's my y, here's my x. Okay, so this is a vertical change. So it's either moving up or down 3. Okay, so you tell me which one, and circle it. A, B, or C, or D, or do whatever you have to do online with it. Okay, this one. Okay, you see that there is a minus in front of the bar, so you see it's a reflection. There is a reflection. All of these say reflect, so I'm not giving you anything in particular. Outside of the bars, so this is going to be something horizontal happening here. So we have a reflection, and we have something horizontal happening here. Okay, so what is that going to give you for A, B, C, or D? Number 11, we have this parent function here, and then it is flipped, so you're going to have a negative in front of the whole thing. And then notice that it moves up 2. Okay? So you're going to have a vertical change of +2. Okay? So what is going to be the answer for that one? A, B, C, or D? For number 12, start here with this parent function. Notice that it first, in parentheses, it's going to move 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So which one of these in parentheses would mean 3 places to the left? And then it moves up, so it's over here, it moves up 1. So outside of the parentheses, which one of these things over here mean up 1? For number 9, what happened here? Well, notice it went right 1 place, and then it went down 2 places. Okay, so which one of those explains that? A, B, C, or D? For number 3, there's a close relationship between air pressure inside a hurricane and its maximum sustained wind speed with this equation, where X is the air pressure, X values, and Y is the wind speed in millibars, or X is the air pressure in millibars, Y is the wind speed in knots. All right, so you have this formula here, and they're asking for what would be the wind speed, Y, of a hurricane with an air pressure of 958. So 958 knots. We're going to plug that in for X and just work this problem out, and you're going to get an answer that looks similar to one of these down here. You may have to round to the nearest knot, so use that formula. For number 10, so this solid line became the dotted line. First there was a reflection, okay? And then it moved 1, 2 to the right. So which one of these shows that? A, B, C, or D? For this number 7, remember that this is a reflection, so you're going to want the graph that shows a reflection. Remember, the parent function is this, right at the origin. There's my y, there's my x. Okay, so it's going to be flipped, and then it's moving horizontally one space. So it's either left or right. You got to decide. I gave you information earlier that gave you too much of a clue, so which would it be, A, B, C, or D? For number 14, this becomes this. So what happens here, I got rid of that G there. This is, remember, when it's between 0 and 1, it's going to be a compression. And then we have, this is a horizontal. So it's, going up or down. Plus 2, what does that say? Horizontally, up or down, and how many? And that should give you clues for A, B, C, or D. And lastly, 1, and the way I printed it out, 1 became last. We have our x values and our y values with height and weight, and the height and weight of several adults were recorded. What does the slope of the line represent when you have this equation that represents the relationship between height and weight? Well, remember that m is the slope when we have this written as it is, y equals mx plus b. So m is the slope. And remember, m is the change in y over the change in x. So any of these that talk about, the change in the weight, in the change of the height, or, the comparing weight and the height, anything that's, points in that direction, that's what the slope is going to be representing. All right, so hopefully that helps you with A, B, C, or D, and good luck with the test.